voice there for a second. Welcome to my podcast, Genesis, or welcome back. I'm your host, Genesis. For those of you that don't know, Genesis means the beginning or a beginning to some. Okay, so first and foremost, I just want to say that I'm very nervous about this episode simply because what the heck is this called? The thing that I use to connect my charger and other things, the adapter, there you go, it broke. So I am struggling with my other one that is broken. I decided to record this podcast episode later after a class. So I have a business foundations class, and in that class we discuss a lot of philosophy, and I thought, why not wait until I'm done with class at 10 p.m. to record this podcast episode, because sometimes we discuss things that really resonate with me and I like to share with you guys, or attempt to share with you. So today's topic was incredibly broad, so I'm not going to abstract anything from what I've learned because one, my brain is fried, and two, I don't want to make this podcast too long, especially because this thing right here, if I move or touch anything, it stops from working. It stops working. That was not a sentence. Anyways, hi, welcome. How are you? I hope you're doing good. Me, on the other hand, estoy cansada. For those of you that don't speak Spanish, estoy means I am. Estoy. Cansada means tired. If you're male, you would say cansado. So, estoy cansada. I am tired. My life. So, usually I feel that Mercury in retrograde, what did people say? The joke ongoing, can somebody get Mercury out of the microwave or something like that, or out of Gatorade or whatever they say. Anyways, sometimes it doesn't affect me, but this Mercury in retrograde is really affecting me. So my family dog passed away. Rest in peace, Precious. I don't want to cry. Someone hit my car. Don't know. It was a hit and run. I've accumulated a lot of debt unwillingly, unwantingly. What else? This minor inconvenience, but a big inconvenience when you have a podcast, right? I can't even think of the other things because why does it matter? You know, this too shall pass. So it'll pass within time. But let me tell you, I am on edge of frustration. Literally, one more thing's gonna happen, and that's gonna be the straw that broke the camel's back. But positive things, I'm doing really good in school. I recently did a boudoir photo shoot a couple days ago, last weekend. I don't remember when. It was an outdoor boudoir photo shoot, like, how would I describe it? Very, like, hiker-like. I'm excited. I'm excited to see the results of the pictures, because the pictures that she showed me while we were taking them, phenomenal. I loved them all. Anyways, I digress. So today's podcast episode is going to be more so talking about worldly things rather than spiritual things, just because there's a lot that's going on in the world right now and I feel like we should discuss them. For those of you that live under a rock, Adam Levine cheated on his wife. Not with one woman, with multiple women. And I think that's a really an important topic to discuss, because I feel as a society, we sometimes forget that two wrongs, let me rephrase that. Sometimes I feel like the abstractions in my mind don't really abstract correctly when I'm talking. My mind moves faster than my mouth does. Wow. Okay. Anyways, two things can be wrong at once. Let me look at my notes right here while not trying to touch this computer, because this thing is holding on to dear life, and I don't want to do anything to upset myself. So anyways, let's get back on track. Okay, so wrong page. There you go. I have a lot of notes here. Before I get started though, if you've made it this far into the episode, friendly reminder to check out my description where you can reach me to message me about advice, chisme that you want to share, or if you want to come on this podcast. Okay? Now, let's actually get into the topic, the nitty-gritty of this podcast episode. So, listen, there was this tweet of this girl saying, I'm going to do PG version of it. She says, I don't support all women because some of you women are dumb. And I wholeheartedly agree with that, because it's very difficult to be a woman's woman when women like Sumner knowingly do things that harm others and then go on social media and brag about it, because that's exactly what she did. There was no reason for her to be like, I cheated with a man who is married to a Victoria's Secret model. She could have just said, I was involved with someone that is an A-list celebrity and I feel like I was manipulated. And people would have been like, who is it? Who is it? You know, if she really wanted to go about it in a girl's girl way, you know? But she didn't. And then Adam Levine cheating on his wife who has had his children is despicable. So again, as a society, we forget that two things can be wrong at the same time. I see a lot of this girl doesn't owe that woman anything, Bahati, Adam Levine's wife. And that can be true to a certain extent. But if she is a girl's girl, she shouldn't have outed the situation like that. She probably should have gone to Bahati and said, hey, this is going on, and whatever, you know, it could have been behind closed doors, that situation, rather than her saying, oh, I was manipulated by a celebrity who is married to a Victoria's Secret model. How many men are married to a Victoria's Secret model? I don't freaking know. I don't pay attention to that stuff, but I feel like that could have been easily assumed if she didn't decide to disclose that information, but she did. Anyways, I digress. I want to talk about a situation that I went through a very long time ago. So it was when I recently moved back to Utah. I worked at a gym. I managed a gym essentially, because that's exactly what I did. I did a lot of marketing for that place and yada, yada, yada. I was a customer service manager, whatever. I was a manager for that place. So, being the new girl in a small town, or that's exactly what I was, a new girl in a small town, which technically I wasn't the new girl. I lived there previously. I was just new again, you know? I was new to the environment, to people that didn't know me, or, oh my gosh, Genesis is back. Did you hear? Because small towns run that way. When someone is new, it's the big talk of the town. Anyways, I had a guy reach out to me on Facebook, and he asked for my Snapchat. Me thinking nothing of it, I give it to him. And there he switched the conversation from how are you doing, opposed to like the conversation on Facebook, to do you want to have a secret relationship with me? Now, immediately I blocked him. I was like, nope, red flag. I didn't give him my Snapchat with any intention to progress a secret conversation. But that was his goal, and I didn't know that. But I blocked him and moved on with my life. One day that I'm working at the gym, it was a weekend, Sunday. I had to work and make sure, again, this was very new gym, so I had to make sure that I was available at all times to help people sign up or come into the gym if they wanted to sign up, because it was key locked. You had to have a key in order to get on into the premises, right? Anyways, that's a lot of nonsense you didn't need to know. I am there by myself. There's absolutely nobody in the gym because it's a Sunday, and Utah people go to church on Sundays. This man comes in and he's like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, good, you know? And he follows up with, how come you didn't answer my question? Why did you block me? And I blew up on this man, essentially. I told him, I was like, the only men that ask for a secret relationship are men who are already in a relationship or a man who is married. Which one are you? My camera is overheating. Give me 1 second. So, again, I said, which one are you, right? And this man started to like shift weirdly as he was standing over the counter where I sit. There's a counter. And he was just like, it was just a question. And I said, what makes you think that I'm the kind of woman who wants to have a secret relationship? Again, fully offended, because you don't just ask women those questions. I feel like you need to learn to read the room, as I've mentioned in other episodes or even on my Instagram, is read the room. It's fairly easy to know your environment if you pay attention to it. And anyways, I proceeded to just stare at him, and he's like, well, if you don't want to have a secret relationship with me, we can just be friends. And I said, again, what makes you think that I would want to be friends with someone who assumes I am a woman who wants to have a secret relationship with a man who could be possibly married? I don't want to be associated with someone like you. So don't ever talk to me. Don't even look at me next time you step foot in this gym. And he respected that going forward. Not that he has any respect for me, but he knew that I knew what kind of wave he was on, and that was not one I wanted to be a part of. One, because karma is a bitch, and that's not some kind of karma I want to have in my life. So for Somner to be like, oh, I was manipulated, he told me that his marriage was rocky, you should have taken that as a red flag and ran. But no, you saw someone as an A-list celebrity, someone is giving you attention in a rocky relationship, and she wanted to use that as fuel to brag later. Sumner is not innocent in this situation, and I feel like a lot of us are forgetting that, and she's forgetting that. You cheated with a married man. Whether his relationship was rocky or not, you knew that he was still in a relationship while pursuing you. So I feel, again, two things can be wrong at the same time, and I have no sympathy for either of them. The only person that has my sympathy is Bahati. Like, are you kidding me? Obviously, we don't know the whole truth. There's been TikToks that I've seen that supposedly they're in an open marriage or whatever. I don't know. But that's neither here nor there. The facts are right now that he cheated. He was exposed. And that's not okay. And Sumner is seeking attention and trying to be, poor me, I was manipulated. You're not a victim. Men, unfortunately, are kind of easy to read. And women, myself included, choose to ignore the red flags depending on our interest or whatever it is that whatever the reason is as to why we choose to ignore the red flags. There's red flags and we choose to ignore them. Men and women. But women are kind of highly intellectual beings that can read men who are easy to read sometimes. So, with that being said, she's not a victim. Adam Levine is not a victim that, what did he say? He's like, I didn't mean to, or I'm working on this with my family who I care about and all this other stuff. I'm like, first of all, I couldn't care less about this situation because it's not my life, but like an asshole, like everyone has one, I have an opinion too. That's not the way that saying goes, but I'm gonna run with it because, again, my brain moves faster than my mouth. I was just gonna say that's what she said, but that's not really funny to anyone else but myself. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna give my camera a moment to cool down because the tea was hot. That's why it's overheating. So before I get into the next topic, I do want to talk about morals and how they're different for everyone. We talked about this in class last week, I believe, if I'm correct. We talked about morals and how they're different for everyone, and we kind of touched base a little bit today about what is wealth for everyone in class, and why do we chase wealth, and why is it important? And everyone gave their 2 cents. Some people said because they want to travel. Other people said because it gives them more time, more freedom of time. And I said I chase wealth for financial freedom, so I don't have to stress about accumulating debt. And that brought us back to morals and what we see and seek based on what we believe is morally correct. For me, being upset over Little Mermaid is morally incorrect because there's no reason for me to be upset over something that is mostly catered to a population of people that grew up watching Little Mermaid and kids now who love Little Mermaid. That's the target demographic, right? So if you're not interested in that, then the color of Little Mermaid's skin should not affect you. But then that's their morals, right? And I am not defending that thought process or any of that. I think that's stupid. Quite frankly, it makes me feel like, are these people that I want to have actual discussions with? And if so, is the conversation going to be productive for myself and for that person if they are very set in their ways? And it may be productive, but it also may not. And it may only result in me being frustrated about the outcome of the conversation because it's not going where I want it to go. And I just choose not to want to have conversations like that with people that are that narrow-minded. But anyways, I want to talk about my love for Little Mermaid first of all, before I talk about the stupidity that is following the Little Mermaid right now. So as a child, Little Mermaid was my favorite princess growing up. Absolute favorite. I used to take baths for hours on end. And you know how your fingers turn pruny? Listen, my little child mind was on the right track. Because I read somewhere that that's your skin adapting to the water conditions. But anyways, I thought in my head that your fingers turning pruny was the process of your fingers eventually going to turn into scales. And I would get really excited about the idea of being a mermaid, but then I'd get really, really anxious, and 9 out of 10 times I would leave the bathtub crying because I thought, what am I going to eat in the ocean? My family's going to have to get rid of me and I won't be able to see them because they have to keep me a secret. I'm going to be a mermaid. Like, there's no electricity in the ocean. I'm going to be in the dark. I'm deathly afraid of the dark. It was a lot to process for my child mind, but that just gives you an idea of my obsession with mermaids and also my fear of the ocean. Anyways, I digress. I do want to say, though, I'm going to push every one of your little kids out of my way to get a good seat in the movie theater when that movie comes out, because I am so excited to see a live action remake of The Little Mermaid. Are you kidding me? That is so exciting. An argument that I see is that scientifically she cannot be black because she lives in the ocean. And scientifically, mermaids aren't real. So that like kills itself out. Like, that argument doesn't make any sense. It has no sense of like thinking. But if we're going to be scientifically correct, black fish do exist. Like, if we're going to be actual literal people in this conversation, black fish exist. The only difference between the black fish and the Little Mermaid is the shade of the scales to skin. Hallie is brown, darker complexion than me. The fish are actually black, like the lid on my hydro flask. So I can't. I just feel like a lot of these people just... Before I get ahead of myself and start making jokes about these people, I do want to discuss the fact that a lot of these people that are truly upset and bothered by the complexion of a mystical creature's skin are adults that you'd assume have common sense, where they are capable of having a complex conversation, where they would understand, like, this is a silly thing to be upset over, but unfortunately age does not define the capability of having common sense. And that's very unfortunate, because then that means that these households that possibly may have children are being raised in a household that is fueled with lack of common sense when it comes to these kinds of topics. And that makes me very sad, because I, for one, was not raised in a household that taught me what racism is. I experienced racism outside of my household. I remember the very first time I experienced racism. It was when I was 6. The Bratz dolls just came out, and I was with my aunt and my sister. For those of you that don't know, I don't talk about it ever. My dad married someone and had kids, so I was often at their house. And I experienced a lot through them, right? This experience was, my sister and I, we went out to watch a Little League football game with an aunt who I believe it was her son. I vaguely remember that, but I remember the instance where I experienced racism. Before the game, we went to a store to buy snacks and stuff. And there, our aunt said, "Do you guys want a toy?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I want a toy. What are you talking about? I'm 6. Bring on the toys." And in the store, the Bratz dolls were on a shelf. And I was so excited because I was so obsessed with Sasha. Sasha is the black Bratz doll. I was obsessed with her. I loved her hair. Everything about her was just like everything I wanted to be. And with excitement, I grabbed that doll and we open our toys in the car, and we're excited to go to this football game, and we're sitting there with our toys, and I have my little doll and my sister has her toy. I can't remember what she bought, but anyways, we both choose to get up and go to the bathroom, which was just down the steps. Little League football games have little cheerleaders, like little girl cheerleaders. And I remember walking down the steps, and these 3 girls stopped me. Specifically one girl, she stops me to tell me that my doll is so pretty, that she loved it so much. And before I can gather the words "thank you," the other little girl, who is not of the same complexion as the other 2 little girls, decided to say my doll was ugly because she's brown. And never in my life had I ever processed the skin complexion of people. Again, I'm 6. And I remember the two other little girls looked at her, and I looked at her, and we all looked at each other. And obviously she's a child just like me, and she didn't understand the impact of her words. And we were just kind of standing there looking at each other until we could walk away from one another. And after that, I remember very vividly starting to recognize the complexion of other people's skins. Specifically, my grandpa. My grandpa, may he rest in peace, I miss that man so much, I'm gonna cry, was a very dark man. And I want to cry because I have his picture up here. Sorry, you guys. I remember looking at him and thinking, I cannot process the idea of someone thinking that he is ugly because of the complexion of his skin. And I cannot speak on what Black people experience, but I can sympathize, because that is terrible to have to think that because of the way that they look, they experience hate, and they do. And we can reference back to when we were protesting for Black lives, and how a lot of people, the same people that are upset about Little Mermaid being Black, were the same people saying all lives matter and be more like Martin Luther King. And they miss a big part of that story of Martin Luther King. He was still murdered. His life was still taken for being a Black activist. So on a small scale, like, of things, these people lack common sense, for sure. But these people are still impacting a youth that is going to grow to have those same feelings the way that they were taught to have. But fortunately, we have social media that allows us to impact children positively, because whether we like it or not, children are on social media. So why not impact the younger generation with the ability to have common sense and outgrow those closed-minded thoughts? I feel like that is a utilitarian way of thinking, because it's doing common good for the greatest number of people. And that is my attempt here. Hopefully, we are teaching younger youth that complexion doesn't matter, someone's sexuality doesn't matter, and how others choose to live their life doesn't matter in our personal lives, because our lives is outside of theirs. But that doesn't mean that we ignore these things, because they are ongoing. People do experience racism. We're seeing it right now with people being so up in arms about Little Mermaid being Black. Again, that goes against my morals and my way of thinking. I truly believe that that is really stupid, and I don't mean that with any respect, because it is really stupid. I see clips of other people discussing the science behind it, or how it's just a lot of stupidity going on, and I just can't process it. All I know is that what we put out on social media, we have to keep in mind, although we don't choose to influence, it's not our choice to influence people, we have to be mindful of what we put out on social media, because there is a younger generation that is going to digest that and run with it, right? I feel like this podcast episode is getting a little long, so I just want to say that although I wish to influence and impact people positively, and that also brings to mind the other side of the spectrum, I know that children are on social media, and what I choose to put out there can influence them, and not everyone is going to think that, but there there are people that don't even process the thoughts of impacting others, and they just speak out of their ass. Example, Andrew Tate. What's that other? Ben Shapiro. Like, they're very extremist with what they have to say, and I just hope that the people that they're influencing kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel and escape that thought process of extremism and hate, and there's just a lot. But anyways, I want to end this podcast and say thank you so much for watching. Again, don't forget to click the description box to find out how you can be on my podcast, share stories with me that I can share with others, and all that jazz. So with that being said, I will catch you on the flippity flip, and don't forget that your vibe attracts your tribe. Bye. Or a beginning to some. You fucking ass.